Hello, hi, welcome. My name is Burnsy. Welcome to Can I Just? I'm gonna start off by first addressing the obvious. Yes, I bleached my hair again. I'm going for spring colors this time, so I'm giving it a few days to breathe, more like a week-ish to breathe, just because like I've bleached the front part of my hair so much that it's the only part of my hair that has like breakage and split ends all of the time, no matter how much I try and moisturize it and condition it, make it perfect. It's always just breaking. But anyway, aside from that, the other obvious elephant in the room is that Maddie's not here with me today. We're still working on very different schedules right now, so I'm here back with another solo episode. Today's solo episode I'm nervous yet very excited about because today I want to talk about my health crisis. I'm nervous and excited to share with you about my health and wellness journey over the past like 3-ish years, 2 years more seriously, but I want to say it started like 7 years ago, which is such a long time, but I promise we will get through all of it and that it'll all make sense and it won't be the longest episode ever. It might be a longer episode, but I might need to cut this episode up and make it into different ones because I just have so much to say on this topic and there's so many different things around it, and I'm going to try my best to not say anything that's going to trigger anyone in any way, but if you are someone who struggles with weight gain, weight loss, just talking about weight or food or anything like that, or you don't like blood, hospitals, needles, like that kind of stuff, just be wary. If you're super sensitive to that, maybe just like skip this one, come back later, find the next episode. Because today we're going to be talking a lot about food, fitness, weight gain, weight loss, surgery, all that kind of stuff. So if that stresses you out in any way, I'm so sorry. Please don't continue with the rest of this episode. Come back later or find another one of our episodes to listen to later. Yeah, so the reason that this episode came into mind and why I wanted to make it was because I actually got a comment on TikTok a couple weeks ago where I had posted a video of me post-op. I think it had been 3 or 5 days. It had been very, very early into my post-op, or like maybe a week, somewhere between like 3 days and a week. I posted a video of my surgical scars, which that was 2-ish years ago, almost 2 years ago at this point that happened and that I posted that video. And all of a sudden now it's starting to get traction. Like it had a couple hundred views for a really long time, but the past couple of weeks, this past month, it just blew up and now I've got like thousands of views on it. I've had a couple videos do that where like I would post it and then months, years later, they blow up for some reason. I don't know why. The algorithm, I guess. So someone had commented on that post that normally when they see people post videos and pictures about this type of surgery that I had and in this specific area, that there's normally drainage tubes happening. And they said that they were skeptical about the timing and why I didn't have those. I will probably do a short little TikTok video addressing that comment specifically and actually giving like a visual update of my surgical scars and how my journey has been for the past 2 years, because it has been a long journey. I had life-changing surgery, and some people might not think of it that way, but to me it has affected so many different areas in my life that it is life-changing to me. So I thought it was a little rude that someone was skeptical about the timing of my surgery and the fact that I just didn't have drainage tubes. Because this type of surgery, from what information I've gotten from other people commenting on my video, is that it's a scheduled surgery for them. This one happened to be an emergency surgery that I needed to get immediately. So I don't know if maybe just because they scheduled it out and they had pre-existing conditions or something that they were at more risk for certain things and needed to have drainage tubes. I personally did not. But I just think it's weird that I'm literally on the internet being vulnerable, showing my scars, and someone's like, I don't believe that's real. I think that's so strange of them to do that. Let's kind of start at the precipice, the climax of what happened. So what had happened was one night I was at a summer stock job in Ohio, and I woke up from this crazy intense pain my right side. And I was like, maybe it's just weird cramping because I was supposed to be getting my period at that point and I had started bleeding a little bit earlier in the day, but it was like so light and abnormal for me. Normally when I bleed, it's very heavy. Sorry for the TMI. This is what you came here for. You came here for the TMI. It's gonna happen. We're gonna talk about hormones. We're gonna talk about periods. We're gonna talk about these types of things. So again, I woke up in the middle of the night, crazy, like aching, stabbing pain in my right side, which kind of radiated towards the middle a little bit, but it was heavily felt on my right side. And I just thought maybe it was like extreme period pain because I've dealt with extreme period pain in the past, like cramping and stuff. But I got out of the hot pad, I took naproxen sodium, which is just Aleve, and nothing was helping. I called my mom. She didn't answer, so I called my younger brother. I'm like, I need you to wake up my mom right now, please. Something is super wrong. So he went and woke her up, and she was like, what is going on? I'm explaining to her my symptoms and what's happening, and she's like, you need to go to the ER right now. My immediate first thought is, I can't afford to go to the ER, but I might be dying. So, you win some, you lose some. So I literally rush out my door grabbing the little few things that I needed, and I go next door to Maddie's room and I'm banging on her door trying to wake her up in a nice way, but still urgently. And I was like, Maddie, please wake up, wake up, wake up. It's like 3-ish, somewhere between 3 and 4 in the morning at this point. June 7th. June 7th, 3 or 4 in the morning, and I'm waking up Maddie, and she's like, what is going on? What is happening? I was like, you need to drive me to the ER right now, because I thought I was going to shit myself. I thought I was going to throw up. I had so many things going on. And she was like, okay, let me just grab my stuff. We'll go. So she starts walking with me up to the front. I stop and I try to go to the bathroom again because I thought I was just having like anxiety poops. It was not anxiety poops. Anyway, she grabs the car because it's like parked farther away. She's driving back to come get me. I finish up. I'm walking outside to meet her at her car, and I just start vomiting on the ground outside. And I'm on the phone with my mom, and she's like, "Yeah, you shouldn't be throwing up. Something is super wrong. You don't just throw up from any kind of pain. Like, this is insane." My mom is a RN. She's a registered nurse. She worked in the IMC for I can't remember how many years, but she switched over to endoscopy recently. Not recently, actually. She switched over to endoscopy about 10-ish years ago. So she's been doing GI endoscopy work, but she was trained to deal with any type of situation and problem that could possibly arise. So I'm throwing up from pain. She recognizes something is super wrong and is like, you have to go to the ER right now. And I'm like, I'm literally on the way. Maddie is picking me up. We're going. So we get to the ER and I'm telling them the type of stabbing pain I'm having. It's unbearable. I just vomited everything that I had the night before up onto the sidewalk. And they were like, okay, great, good. There's nothing in your system and your stomach. I told them what meds I had, when my period was supposed to start, when my last one was, because I tracked that information. And they were like, okay, great. It sounds like what you're experiencing is a kidney stone. And I was like, okay, that's crazy that it's that painful that I'm vomiting, but I don't know anything about kidney stones. I've never had a kidney stone before, but because it was on the one side where it was located, they were like, it's probably just a kidney stone. And I was like, I would love it if it was a kidney stone. I would love to be just dealing with that. So but I was super hydrated. I drank so much water. I knew that, I was doing a lot of physical activity at this job and getting up and down and cardio and doing all the things and lifting heavy things. So I was very on top of making sure I was very hydrated. And I was like, I just don't believe it could be a kidney stone because, like, I feel like I would have gotten a UTI before I would ever get a kidney stone. I don't know anything about this. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a health professional. I'm not a mental health professional. I don't know any of this. Okay, I don't know anything about that. So they're giving me morphine for the pain, and I'm like, hey, this is not doing anything for my pain. It is getting me high, but I am still in extreme pain. And so we were trying like warm compresses and towels and blankets just to try and keep that area warm because that's supposedly something that would help with, kidney stone pain. And finally they were like, okay, we're gonna go get you looked at with a CT, I think. So they take me over, do the CT. I was like, it's hot, you know how CTs go. And they bring me back to the room. It was taking them a while. Like, I know it takes a while to read those types of scans and stuff. The doctor comes back in and she's like, so what's happening is your right ovary developed a cyst and it has overgrown into a mass, and it's so heavy. It was 10 by 11 centimeters, so, a decent size chunk. It grew so heavy that at some point it has flipped over on itself and it is cutting off blood supply to your ovary. And we need to remove it right now because if we let it sit any longer without getting blood supply, it will die and go necrotic in your body and you will get sepsis. And I was like, oh no. I did not really fully think about the consequences of losing one of my ovaries. It didn't hit me till afterwards, and dealing with things and, in the future past this point that we were talking about, how much it would be affecting me. And all of that, I was just upset that I was losing my ovary and I had to go into surgery. That was like my baseline. I was also really high on so many drugs. So Mattie has been here with me at the hospital, helping me just get through everything. My parents are calling me, but I'm texting and calling my bosses, who are also my dear friends, and letting them know that like I'm in the hospital. Mattie's with me in the hospital. We're not going to be at work today. I have to go in for emergency surgery. The casual things. Our boss and friend Kaya shows up eventually after getting all my texts, and she's waking up. She drives over to the hospital and she's sitting with us and is there during this whole process of like discovering what's happening. So after getting an ultrasound done so they could really see what they're working with on the interior, I was in so much pain during that ultrasound because I kept having to like lift my pelvis up more because it was it goes inside your body. It's not one of those exterior ones. So yeah, I'm having to lift my pelvis up during this ultrasound, and that's like rotating the thing inside of me more, and I'm already in a lot of pain, and they came back in to give me more morphine. I was like, can I please have something other than morphine because it's not working for my pain. I'm still in the same amount of pain as I was when I walked in, and I've been given morphine like 3 or 4 times at this point. And I'm very sensitive to everything. My nervous system is like really sensitive to everything. So I was expecting, this thing to work, and it wasn't working. So we finished with the ultrasound. Another few minutes go by. They're taking me up to go get prepped for surgery, essentially, and they hit me with some Dilaudid. That worked. Okay. I immediately threw up, but my pain was starting to go away, so I was like, this is great, even though I'm vomiting. And I was getting shaved and prepped and everything for the surgery, and just I'm high on all of the drugs, and I'm like, it's fine, show everybody everything. So they were telling me what their plan was, that they were going to go in laparoscopically with a couple of incisions and fill me up with air and then see if they could remove the ovary that way, the mass that way, and just pull it out. When they got in, though, they realized that this mass was full of fluid and they had not prepared for that, so they had to go in and do a cesarean section incision on me, which, if you're not aware what cesarean section incision is, it's a C-section, like what people have done. If they're not able to give birth naturally, they'll get cut that way and have the babies pulled out. If you didn't know, there you go, now you know. So they had to end up doing that and pulling it out because they didn't have enough time to tie it off and drain it and do all the things. They didn't want to drain it in my body and risk getting stuff everywhere. If it was cancerous or something, they didn't want cancerous fluid cells around in my body just like doing whatever they do. So I wake up from surgery. I was definitely in a lot of pain, very tired, so thirsty, because they give you this thing to dry out your mouth and your throat. They dry you out so that you don't aspirate when they have the trach in that's helping you breathe while you're under. It honestly, like, I don't even remember going out. I was like counting, and then all of a sudden I was not counting, and all of a sudden I was waking up. It was just a really weird experience. And it was, later in the morning at that point. Mattie had not eaten anything in that morning because I wasn't allowed to eat anything in the morning before my surgery. So she was so hungry, but she would just like refuse to eat so that I wouldn't feel bad if she was eating in front of me. But when I went off to surgery, she went and ate something and came back, and she was there in the room when I woke up, and I was in so much pain. It was insane. My mom flew out and met me at the hospital. I think I went into surgery around like 8 a.m. and then my mom was there by 8 or 9 p.m. So it took her a while to just like get flown out. What they think caused this is we don't really know what caused the overactive cyst to form how it did, but it had been growing for a very long time is all they really knew. So we probably expect that I'm not saying what I'm about to say might upset some people. Please just listen to everything that I'm about to say fully. Just because I took this one thing and it could have been the potential problem that caused this does not mean if you take it, it will do this to you. And if you are on it, it doesn't mean that this is going to happen to you. It's just a possible idea of what did happen. They theorize that my body reacted poorly to when I was taking birth control, and it caused this overgrowth of the cyst on my ovary. I was only on birth control for 8 months, 8 or 9 months. And during those 8 or 9 months, I gained a bunch of weight. I felt terrible all the time. I was so emotional about everything. I was just not myself at all. I hated being on birth control, which is why I ended up just tracking my cycle very closely and more in depth to like understand, where I was at, because the traditional like over the counter, not over the counter, but traditional like oral birth control was just, I had such a poor reaction to it. So I had only been on it for 8 or 9 months and I decided I was going to stop taking it because at that point I had missed taking it, I think 3 days in a row. I was not very good at being consistent about taking my birth control. The first month was fine, but by like month 2.5, 3, I was just like not good about taking it all the time. And I would miss a couple days and I would then, catch up, whatever. But at this point, I had missed like 3 days and then I got my false period at that point. So I was like, you know what? I already missed it. I already got my period. I'm just like not going to take this ever again. Going back to, this whole thing of like, we're going to get into some relationship issues that cause these things, okay? We're spilling a little tea. When I was 17, I started dating my first ever boyfriend, and it was a really good experience until he moved away for college. And then everything changed. At that point, I got cheated on, and it was not a positive experience at all, to the point where I was stress starving myself over working out just to like fill my brain with something else. Like I was just not interested in food. I was not interested in my usual hobbies. I was just like, if I work out, I won't have to think about anything other than my muscles hurting. I will go to school, I'll do my job, whatever. Because at that point I was starting college already. I was dual enrolling. And then shortly after that relationship ended, I got into a new relationship with someone else, and they were using food as a emotional coping mechanism. And I started to pick up on that and started using it as well. So I went from, stress starving myself and over working out and all these things. I don't want to call it any specific type of disordered eating. I never got diagnosed with disordered eating at this point, so I don't want to like label it in any way, but you can assume. And then I started to switch and started binge eating and eating my feelings, and I gained a lot of weight. So I went from being about 115 to 115, 120 to 145, 150. So I had gained a decent amount of weight at that point. My body, it felt like my body changed overnight, even though it wasn't overnight. I was also, in the beginning of starting college myself, and the freshman 15, people say. I don't know if that's real or not, but I gave the freshman 40. Okay. So yeah, I had that going on, and then I broke up with that person because that was not a healthy relationship either. And I was single for a little while, and then I started really wanting to take care of myself. After gaining all of that weight, I realized how much weight I had put on, and I was like, I don't like this. This doesn't feel like me. I started fasting in an unhealthy way and then exercising all of the time, lifting weights, doing cardio. And I lost almost all of the weight. I was down to, I think, 125. So I was back to more of my normal place. And then I got into another relationship, of course. And I was fine up until the pandemic hit. And then once the pandemic hit, things took a turn for the worst in my relationship, school, not being able to go to the gym, and I gained a bunch of weight again. And I went from 125 to 155, 160. So I gained a bunch of weight again. And that was partly due to starting birth control because this person made me feel like I needed to put something in my body that I had never taken before and never needed. Um, for their own personal gain, if you know what I'm saying. I started putting these chemicals in my body that made me feel icky and bad, and I gained a bunch of weight, and the pandemic contributed to that and everything. So my periods got lighter during that time, and then once I stopped, they got heavier again, which is how they, excuse me. I've always been like a heavier bleeder, and my periods were usually pretty consistent. Well, for those reasons of like I gained weight out of other factors, and then having consistent periods and not having like other hormonal issues, I don't believe I have PCOS, because just because you have ovarian cysts that form, they're very common and most people don't know that they're there and they go away on their own. Just because you have ovarian cysts does not mean you have PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, okay? I want to put that out there. That is like such a big misconception, and everyone kept telling me when this happened that I probably have PCOS. I don't believe I have PCOS, okay? It was not a concern by any of my doctors when this happened. No one brought it up, no one mentioned it to me, no one found anything in my blood tests that indicated that. I probably do not have this thing, okay? Please don't yell at me that I might have this thing that I probably don't have. Anyway, so after gaining a bunch of weight in this relationship, I moved away to university for the first time, and I was feeling pretty good and okay. I was very excited about moving out and having freedom and living my own life and being able to take care of myself how I wanted to for the first time. About, I want to say like 9-ish months in, I think I was in my second semester or something like that. It might have been my second semester moving into my second year. I hit this wall of extreme fatigue. I was tired all the time, no matter how much I slept. I would take naps throughout the day. Nothing interested me. I didn't even want to get up and eat food. I believe I probably had some sort of depressive episode going on at this point. I have never felt that low in my life since then. I was just so tired all the time, and I hated everything, and I just wanted to be asleep, and I would put like 5% effort into my schoolwork at that point, and then the rest of the time I was in bed sleeping. And even when I was like trying to attend classes, I would be online attending classes if I could, and just barely being awake for it. And I think this is when things in my body, my hormones really started changing and getting affected by what was happening with my ovary. I never really like lost all the weight. I still have been at a pretty consistent weight since then, which for my height is not ideal. If you don't know this about me, I am just under 5'2". I always tell everyone that I'm 5'2", but I'm actually like 5'1.5". That half an inch just makes me feel better. But being around 150 is not an ideal weight for someone my height, especially since I wasn't doing as much physical activity as I used to. It wasn't like muscle gain or anything. I'm not trying to say anything about anyone else's height and weight or what is that. There's like some sort of score that you can get that's based on just your height and weight, but it doesn't factor in like muscle mass. You know what I'm talking about? Someone's gonna scream it at me and I'm gonna remember it later and be like, a BMI score. Anyway, I'm not trying to say anything about anyone's BMI score. That is your own personal business. You do what's healthy for you. Some people need the extra weight, some people don't. Some people are athletes, some people aren't, like blanket statement. I'm not trying to make any statements about anyone else's situation other than my own personal experience. Having all of that in mind, knowing now post surgery what was probably going on, all of that makes so much more sense. I had all of these symptoms that I didn't know were symptoms at the time, causing me so many problems until after having my ovary removed. I did go through a lot of changes when it came to like how I was feeling in my body. Because post surgery, after, like a couple weeks of recovery, I had so much more energy again. I felt more like myself because I had still been stuck in that fatigue state of like, I would get up at 7:30, 8 o'clock. And by the time 4:30, 4 o'clock, 4:30 hit, I was down. Like I had nothing left in me. I was over it. I had no energy. And then this thing happened, and I was like, I have my energy back. I feel more like myself for the first time in forever, it felt. Because I had been dealing with that fatigue and depression for like 2-ish years. I even started on like antidepressants, which I didn't feel like fully really helped me. It just like, it killed my libido. I don't feel like it really helped regulate me in any other way. Like, it just killed that part, which was something I was not used to, being, a growing young person. Post-surgery, I still have scarring. They have gone down now after 2 years, but the first year it was really weird trying to just get used to my new body and what it looked like with the scars, because I had so much weird inflammation happening and I was just confused, and I was like, I don't know, do I need to fix my body? Should I not even worry about my body anymore? Can I just like go get tattoos now? Like, I was going through a little bit of an identity crisis. And like during that first year, post surgery, I still had, painful period cramps like before. I was still heavily bleeding like before. It was consistent. At one point, I think like 2 years before I had my surgery, my back pain, I used to get severe back pain because my uterus is tilted. It's something that runs in my family. My uterus was tilted, so I would get a lot of back pain during my period and like some cramping. And then around 2 years before, I guess like the mass had moved things around or something, and I stopped getting back pain on my period, and it was all just intense cramp pain. But I did notice within like the first year after post surgery that my back pain during my period came back again. I still get painful cramps. There are times if I don't stick to my exercise regimen or eat the right foods or drink enough water or have enough protein, my periods are awful. I would also like to not call them periods anymore, because that is the whole reason that term came about was because men would call it, in the old days, they would call it periodic sickness or periodic illness. That's why it got shortened down to the period. I prefer to call it my cycle or my moon time now. So if I say cycle or moon time, now you know what I'm speaking about, because like most people say their cycle, they're referring to the entire 28-day cycle. Some people, it's not 28 days, so don't think like if yours is shorter or longer that you're doing something wrong with your body. The average is the 28 days. If you have longer or shorter, but it's consistent or whatever, it's fine. But some people refer to the entirety of that time period as a cycle. But sometimes I refer to it as my cycle for just when I'm menstruating or menstruation. Oh my god, about my knee, I'm sorry. But it's also like my moon time, because like we go through phases and changes like the moon, and in nature, and it's cyclical, and like nature is cyclical. If you think about like trees during the spring, summer, fall, winter, shedding their leaves and growing them back and all these things, it's cyclical. We're part of nature. So it's my moon time. Just getting that out of the way. But anyway, yeah, I would still have, painful period cramping and stuff, and it would be extra worse if I had not done my usual regimen and routine to, take care of myself. My second year post surgery, it has been the best so far. Within the last 4 to 6 months, my cycle has been so much better. I knew it would take time for my body to sort its hormones out and do its thing and sort itself out. And I knew I was not going to feel 100% normal post surgery immediately, and it was going to take time. I just thought after the first year that that was going to be the best. But now, having been post op for 2 years, I feel much more like myself. I was starting to feel that feeling of like feeling more like me within the first 6 months to a year, but now I'm like, I didn't know I could have had it this good. Like, I thought what I was living like before was normal, and that could have was just gonna be my normal. But now I'm like, this is my new normal. This feels even better than what it could have been. So a lot of my first year was about just resting and letting my body recover and balance my hormones out and just focus on my diet. And I don't say diet as in like I'm following a specific diet. I mean diet as in just what I am consuming and putting in my body. I'm not following any specific thing. A diet can just be what you eat and doesn't have to be, restrictive in any way. But anyways, I was just trying to feel my body in a way that felt good and figuring that out for the first year to make sure, I was getting enough proper nutrients to heal properly and balance my hormones better. Within the second year, I started wanting to work more on rebuilding my abdominal muscles. Because if you don't know, when you get a C-section, they cut through your lower abdominal muscles and they never really like form back the same way again, and it's always kind of weird. So my upper abdominal muscles were, doing a lot of work and were pretty strong. My whole core was very strong pre-surgery, but my lower abdominals post-surgery have had such a hard time recovering and rebuilding that muscle memory that I had before. So working a physically intensive job like I am working, I definitely did build up a lot of muscle in general, but I did notice that lack in my lower abdominals still. So I've been really focusing the last 6 months on rebuilding my lower abdominals. I actually would say probably the last 6 months to a year. So maybe more like 9 months, I was like, maybe I should really start focusing on this and stop just like letting it rest, because 2 years post-op should be just enough time to start rebuilding that. So about 6 months ago, I got more serious about my wellness journey holistically. And I got more serious about what foods I was putting on my body, and not necessarily in a way of like restricting anything. I definitely started out with restriction, and it made me hate the entire process. Now, when I eat food, I don't think about restriction. I think about just getting enough of the good stuff in my diet. So, like, I'm still allowed to have sugar. I'm still allowed to have a cookie. I'm still allowed to have, a pastry or a coffee. But it's also about balancing out with, am I getting enough protein when I'm eating this? Am I getting enough, pre and prebiotics, probiotics? Am I getting enough iron? Am I getting enough all of the things? Did I eat a vegetable today? Sometimes it was just, even just trying to eat a vegetable, just getting more of that good stuff into my diet. And then doing some workouts, weightlifting, some cardio, that type of stuff. It was a very slow build to get to where I am now. I definitely have more that I could say about my entire wellness journey the past 6 months, 6 to 9 months. But it was just getting started was the really big part. I just needed to get started and to build some confidence back in relearning muscle memory and rebuilding that muscle that I had lost, even though I'd gained muscle everywhere else. I'm gonna start touching a little bit more on some more sensitive sides of this. I think all of it is sensitive and vulnerable to talk about, but I want to talk about something a little bit more sensitive than what we have been talking about. Previously I'd mentioned my libido had dipped due to taking uh, antidepressant medication, mood stabilizers, if you will, and then having my ovary removed. That definitely affected a lot of those hormones. And about 4 or 5 months after having surgery, I met my current partner, and I had not participated in any physical activity like that since, having it removed and everything. So I was very nervous and kind of like, how is it gonna feel? Is it gonna be different? Is it gonna be the same? Because I was dealing with a lot of like pain in the past due to what was going on down there. It was something that I didn't 100% fully enjoy. And so I was very nervous about, starting this new relationship and opening that door again and having to learn if that's going to be another just added painful process to everything else that I've gone through. But luckily, it wasn't. Luckily, everything went really, really good. Everything went really well. My partner is just like the most supportive person in the world. He supports me so much, and I love him so much. He is such a blessing. He is the most patient man in the world, because I can be extremely indecisive and a little over dramatic and a little delusional, and he will just sit there with me through the whole process of me feeling my feelings and trying to make decisions. Like, he's just so incredibly patient. So I'm really glad that my first time back to dating was with him, and getting to kind of like re-experience dating all over again, because I had changed so much between that time of like that last breakup and then actually having my ovary removed. Like, there was a lot of change that happened for me, and then post surgery I changed a lot internally and emotionally as well, where I was looking at life in a different lens. I had obviously like matured and gone through a lot more stuff before surgery, and then post surgery I just had this whole new outlook on life, and I was really excited to be able to share that with someone for the first time, and having it been him is the best thing I possibly could have asked for. So something that I want to get into more is my general wellness journey. If that's something you all would be interested in, I would love to share more about that, because now, I'm a lot more athletic. I've rebuilt my lower abdominals a significant amount. I can do things I wasn't able to do before, and really just becoming like my dream version of myself and learning how to just fake it till I make it. All of those things have led me to the point where I am, and I feel really good about where I am. And I would love to just share more information on that. So let me know if you would like for me to talk more about my wellness journey in general. I would definitely be down for that, and just give you all my tips and tricks for becoming a more active and health conscious type of person, but not making it in a way that's shaming yourself or making you feel bad about yourself, because that's what I was doing previously that caused so many bad habits around wellness and what that actually meant, and looking at it from a more holistic standpoint, and not just, oh, I have to do this one thing this amount of times and then I'll get to where I'm at. It's about everything that goes into it. So thank you so much for being patient with me and allowing me to be vulnerable and expressing myself about this very intimate and private thing that happened that, I have not been intimate and private about at all. I love sharing my story. Definitely check out my TikTok. I'll be posting some more update videos on, my wellness journey post surgery, and replying to that comment before that I had talked about. You can also find me on Instagram, also Designs by Burnsy. Check out my website, designsbyburnsy.com. I just uploaded one new thing of merch, I think, so that's super exciting. Go check out my shop on there, see if there's anything you like. You're always welcome to request anything from me. I've had a few merch ideas in the back of my head that I'm trying to put out, and I was working on it before starting this episode, but I hit a creative block with it, and I needed to just reset and come back to it. So, yeah, just let me know. Again, we're still new to all of this, so, be patient with us as we're figuring things out. And I'm, fully funding and editing the entirety of this podcast. So it would be really great if you guys just liked and commented, subscribed, followed, whatever platform you're listening on. Leave a comment if you can. I know Spotify and YouTube does that. Leave a like if you can. Leave a review if you're able to. And look out for our next episode. Thank you guys so much for watching or listening. If you're watching the video or just listening to the audio, we still appreciate it no matter what. And you can find Can I Just on, I think, just Spotify and YouTube right now. So go look us up on both those platforms if you're already looking up on one. And I'll see you next time. Bye.